Welcome to Scale Her Up, the Female Entrepreneurs Show with me, Brenda Hector. I'm a business growth specialist helping business owners to develop themselves and grow their businesses so they can achieve their goals and enjoy the lifestyle they dream of. I'm also on a mission to revolutionise the entrepreneurial landscape for women in business. In every podcast episode, I interview someone who has an inspiring story or some great advice for women aiming to start or scale their businesses. If you're new to the show, take a moment to subscribe and please check out the previous ones after listening to this. We've got an awesome community on Facebook. Just search for Scale Her Up and join in. I'm delighted today to have Sarah Harley from Margaret Duffus Leasing join me as my guest on the Scale Her Up podcast. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Brenda. Thanks for having me.
Oh, delighted to have you. I know your story, obviously, how you got into business, but if you could maybe just share for the listeners how you ended up as the owner and director of Margaret Duffus Leasing.
Well, it was originally set up by my mum back in 1997, and I was in training management with a chain of bars and restaurants at the time. But I'd been aware of leasing and her role in leasing before then. And she was doing that for about 2 years before she was really at the stage where actually it got bigger than she'd ever really anticipated. And she was able to take on staff. So it just was an opportunity for me that I decided to take a bit of a sideways step at that point for me. But it was just nice to get into more of an office environment and working hours and a chance to work and get to know my mum that I would never have had otherwise as well it was just too good an opportunity to pass up. So she's been retired now for about 10 years, about over 10 years. So it's been quite a journey since then. It's been more than I ever expected, really.
Fantastic. Do you know when she started in 97? Do you know what her ambitions were for the business?
She had been in leasing since she'd gone back to work when we were young kids, and had worked for a firm of solicitors in their leasing department. And she got to the stage where she just wasn't getting the freedom to make the decisions she wanted to make with regards to the business. But her real vision was just something to keep her busy and occupied. I'm trying to think, she must have been about 50 at the time. No, not quite. Probably about the age I am now. And just really saw her doing that for 10, 15 years until her retirement. So she really didn't envisage it being the size that it is and having the number of employees that it did, because she started working from home. It was a number of years before we moved out of there even.
So at what point did you know that you were going to take over?
Because we worked from home and we had a couple of part-time employees and ad hoc employees. I had a couple of friends involved. She had one of the girls that she'd worked with at her previous employment involved in doing some of the viewings. And we were getting to the stage where it was just big enough to get out of her house. She wanted out of her house. But we actually ended up, my mum and dad then built over their garage and we used that as an office. But we did have employees at that point. And we did think about sort of what else we would do. Would we move somewhere else and buy somewhere else as an office? So certainly on the discussion table then. And certainly once we've got employees involved, then it had legs and it was going to go. And that was probably weren't really talking about her going at that stage, but I can see it as my future long term.
So how many employees are there now then?
We are currently 17 of us. That's including me and my husband, who are partners. We've got one off on maternity leave at the moment, and one of them as well is actually just being contracted in on a sort of short-term basis. But that's probably the most we've ever had at the moment, which we were slightly larger before the oil price crashed, and we did have to downsize slightly. At that point, but that's I would say that's us back up to the most employees we've had. So it's great.
Fantastic. And then I suppose as you were in a management trainee role, you maybe had a bit of you'd had a bit of training in people management.
Well, a wee bit, yes, yeah, definitely. I thought the bars and restaurants was an excellent education for me. The immediacy of it, and every day was just so like it's a fresh day, it's fresh problems, it was very exciting. And I do see leasing does mirror that in the day-to-day challenges that you come up against. So yeah, and dealing with people was you're dealing with that as with the landlords and the tenants as much as with the staff. So yeah, it's across the board. So that definitely though that skills that have had to come in more over the last 10, 15 years than at the beginning, and it's definitely had to be something I've had to learn or get help in. We have had HR support and HR help, but yeah, just learning how to get the best out of your staff on a day-to-day basis is something you have to learn. Yeah, really.
So you mentioned that you working with your mum, you got to know your mum, got to know her in a different context, in the work context, and also now you're working with your husband. So yeah, what's your what would you like to share in terms of the family business?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know how either of them have managed it. You probably need to ask them more than me, to be honest. But it's been a fantastic opportunity to get to know my mum on a different basis, on a different level. And we've seen different strengths and weaknesses in each other that you maybe don't see in a home environment. So yeah, that's been priceless to me, really. And being able to get my husband involved. Again, I couldn't do it without the support and without that emotional support and the sounding board. And again, I've been able to speak and treat them like I would not be able to treat anybody else, which is not a good thing. But I couldn't have done it without them. And I can't imagine what it's like to do it on your own. I mean, obviously you have other staff that you have more as confidence and sounding boards. But yeah, no, it's been priceless.
I suppose there are maybe conversations you can have with your mum or your husband that you wouldn't have with a team member.
Yes, yeah. Yes. Yeah, no, it is. And you can blow up, we were having a conversation yesterday about something completely different actually, and it was you can just blow up and go off the scale and just get everything out, and then once you've said that, you're a bit more rational sometimes, but it doesn't. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to excuse yourself, and yeah, there's that you're just 100% safe, or you feel safe with that person, which is priceless. Really.
Awesome. Yeah. So I suppose for the listeners, if they've got someone like that, then that's really going to help them to build their business. And
yeah, I'm sure everybody's partner plays that role, or parents play that role to them in some degree, but just having that constant understanding, I think, as well as to exactly what the issues are and what you're going through, has been very nice. And yeah, it is just nice to be able to work and live with the people that are closest to you, and you just.
Yeah, I also used to, not now, but I worked in the same environment as my husband, and I did feel that I got to know him. I got to know him better and understood him better now that I understood his work and his career as well. So yeah, I totally understand where you come from. And
you do have a different relationship when it comes to work as when it comes to home, or it's really nice just to have, people are complicated and multidimensional, and I recommend it to anyone, really. It's a really nice, you get to grow as a couple and as individuals.
Absolutely. And people say to you, oh, I don't think I could work with my hubby. But actually, it's once you're there, it's different from what you think it would be, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you are. You're different people. You're in different roles, and we're all different people in different situations. Mm-hmm.
So talking about the different roles then, I'm aware that you have 2 daughters. Yeah. So how do you balance Sarah the mum and Sarah the business owner?
Well, again, I was very lucky that because, actually, my mum ended up retiring around the same time that I had my first daughter. But I was very lucky that I had a great general manager in at that point as well. In fact, that was probably before Jimmy came on board full time. So I was able to work part time and put being a mum to the forefront at that point. And I was definitely less involved in the day-to-day stuff. And again, I was very fortunate that that was a good time for leasing, and it was plain sailing. And then she's retired, and Jimmy's come on. Well, it also he came on board full time. She's now retired, and yeah, I'm just much more involved in the day-to-day stuff. So yeah, it changes all the time. It's juggled and things juggled. Jimmy has definitely been more and more involved in helping out with the kids as well as time has gone on. I definitely, when I was part-time, wanted to take that role on and be the mum and be the one that they shout out for, whereas now I'd rather they shout for him. And again, through lockdown, he was fantastic at the homeschooling. Definitely realised that's not my strength, and that was his strength. Much more patient with the kids, and just much more thorough and giving of his time throughout that respect. So yeah, it evolves as they change and grow up as well.
Absolutely. And do they have dreams of joining you in the business?
I don't know if I can hang on that long, to be honest, for something. But no, yes, they do, and they don't. Again, I think because they know that I've come in and taken over from my mum, they almost see that as normal as well, I think. But I mean, you don't want to put that pressure on them. I want them to have free choice of the world. But yeah, it's lovely to think that if that's what they wanted, it's something that's there for them, and it is a choice for them. And actually, on my dad's side, he was a GP, and he took over the practice from his father. So, there's been a lot of that in the family. So yeah, it's worked very well for us. So
it's great. It's great that the girls have got you as a role model, and their grandmother. That women can go into business, and that's yeah.
Yes, yeah. No, that's it. It's just that's what they see. It's just that's what's normal to them. So
what do you attribute the success of the business to? What have been the things that have really contributed to the success to get you now to the biggest you've been?
Well, there's an element of luck in the fact that we're in an industry that's been growing throughout that time. And Aberdeen certainly used to, was incredibly popular as a place where you could invest and buy to let. I like to think that, again, it's having that enthusiasm for property, having that enthusiasm for business each day, having an attention to detail and wanting to get involved at all levels of the business, and never being beyond arranging a viewing and picking up a Hoover, but in the same breath, as you have taught me, Brenda, having my eye on what my role is and being able to facilitate everybody else's role rather than being the one that picks up the Hoover. But yeah, I do think that's a lot of it's hard work, enthusiasm, and loving what you do and doing it as best as you can every day.
And what about your team? Do they love what you do?
I think so, yes, for the most part. We've got quite a few staff that have been with us a number of years now. So we do get quite a good sense of teamwork as well out of it. And it has a lot of challenges, but I think we all relish the challenge. We're all, you get a team that's sort of similar. You relish the challenge, enjoy being busy. The days fly by, the weeks fly by. And yeah, we all hopefully get a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment out of it.
Fantastic. And one of the questions on my list here is about scaling your business. Sounds like it just sort of happened with the market. I take it things just grew as the market was buoyant.
And there have been opportunities throughout the years to scale up incrementally and buy portfolios. And we have looked at that, and we have looked at that seriously. But again, I mean, there was one where my first daughter was I was still actually on maternity leave, sort of officially at that point. And it just wasn't quite right for us at that point. And again, in other times, we've just kind of just shied away from it and have actually just always seen that we're growing organically and preferred to grow organically, and not had the chaos of that short-term burst where you're taking on a portfolio and having to get all these all that information onto your data system, scale up staff-wise to deal with that. But that's not to say that, let's say again, my kids are now getting older and a bit more independent, and yeah, maybe that's something we will look at still, going forward. So yeah, it's a bit. I do find it a bit daunting, but actually, well, after COVID, what's daunting? We can deal with it. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned COVID, actually, because I was just, how did you cope with the business? It must have been a challenging industry to be in as well over the lockdown periods.
I mean, it's such a blur. I'm trying to remember the sort of timescales of it all happening, because it was almost a relief to go into lockdown that first time, because every day the rules were changing and things were closing down around you. So having that final line, right, that's it, we're buckling down, we're all at home, that's that. But at least we had a few weeks where you could get your head around how that would work and what you would need to put in place. I mean, honestly, if you talk about making change in business, but see when necessity dictates what's going to happen, it happens. It's amazing how, I think there was one of your books in the book club, was that the Minute Manager, when they were talking about, was it Apollo 13, where they'd had this part that they'd spent billions and months creating, but then when something went wrong on the ship, they managed to fashion something out of tinfoil in 23 hours, which ultimately saved their lives because they had to. Yeah, it's not quite on that scale, but yeah, it's amazing what people can do when they have to. We're all a lot more capable than we think we are.
And we all know now we're a lot more capable than we thought we were 2 years ago. Yeah.
And as I say again, it really wasn't that challenging in the sense that everybody knew what was happening. Everybody was very sympathetic as to the situation, and we had there was a core of us that worked through the first lockdown, and the rest were on furlough. And again, it was hard work while that happened, but yeah, to be honest, the housing market hasn't been as badly affected since the second lockdown. We weren't shut down as much. So yeah, it's just the physical challenges of the restrictions, I suppose, and social distance.
I'm just thinking, you mentioned the book. I'll just, for clarity for the listeners, the book was called The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey, and it was by Ken Blanchard, and Sarah's a member of the Business Book Club, and we read that book just the other month. So if anyone's interested in finding out about that, that's the book that it is. And if anybody wants to find out more about the Business Book Club, get in touch with me. I'll be delighted to tell you more about it. So, Sarah, you mentioned that your mum and your husband, there's an amazing support for you in the juggling the business and home life and everything, and getting being a business owner. But who else are the biggest supporters for you in your business?
My staff. Mm-hmm. Again, we've had plenty of support as well from clients and landlords and tenants. And again, all the contractors that we work with as well, because we're only as good as the repairs and maintenance that we do as well. So, I mean, we've got a good team of plumbers and joiners and painters and builders. And, again, we've worked with them for many years. So they might not be directly on the payroll, but they're very much part of the team. And yeah, actually, it's, there's quite a lot of people involved when you take into account all of them. And again, even the people that are IT support are quite heavily involved on with the business, I think, on a regular basis. And our software guys that produce the software we use for the property management side of things. And I'm sure there's, but yeah, there's again, using Smart PA, we've outsourced some of the business functions. Again, there's support from so many different sides, really.
So for the listeners that are maybe thinking of starting or looking to scale their business, how do you find the right people to you, the right support team? How have you done that?
You are probably just looking for that enthusiasm and that passion and the willingness to meet challenges, I suppose, and positivity. And yeah, it's the most unscientific way possible, probably. And the one thing every HR advisor will tell you not to do is say what you get a sense of somebody fitting in with you. Yeah,
I know what you're saying. I think what you're saying is that people who fit with your culture.
Yeah, very much so.
With your business culture.
You do want to kind of mix it up a bit, and you are looking for a balance of strengths and weaknesses with the staff. And there have been times where you can see that you're getting a clique or a group of that. You want a mix. You don't want a balance. So it's not necessarily just one thing. You definitely need to have different personalities and different roles, and you're very much individuals, I suppose. That'll all bring something to you. Yes.
Oh, fantastic. So, as a woman in business, what do you feel have been have you had any challenges as a woman in business? But many people have, but I have interviewed a few who have not. So do you see challenges that we face as?
Yeah, I can't say I've been aware of any particular challenges because I'm a female. Property is quite a female-dominated industry. There are men, but I mean, again, in our office, we have had more, but there's Jimmy and one other employee at the moment. So I can't say I've been aware, to be honest. You're mixing with other, because the properties are often, you're dealing with people like couples that it's their private business. They're lease out their buy-to-let property. It's not that corporate a lot of the time. And we are leasing to a lot of employees of large companies, but even the relocation arm of that is often female-led. So there's not a lot of testosterone, to be honest. So yeah,
and is that a good thing?
We could benefit with a wee bit more sometimes. I like a mix. Sometimes the men cut through a lot of the waffle and can sort. Yeah, a mix is always good. It's never good to be too heavily on one or the other, I think.
Yeah, no, I would agree. That needs to be around 50-50, doesn't it? That would be the that would be the balance in the rest of the world. So yeah.
It doesn't. Well, again, I do, because I suppose we are outnumbering the men. You're just not aware. Like, again, it's maybe how it is in a male-dominated world. If you know what I mean, you're just not aware that there's challenges. And that maybe other people are feeling that, and that you're putting up barriers to the men coming into the industry. I don't know.
Interesting, interesting to flip it around and look at it like that, isn't it? So, what are your ambitions for the future?
Well, now that hopefully COVID is becoming, well, just part of day-to-day life and things are back up and running, we're finally sort of back in the office, still mixing a wee bit of home working in, but we've got our new normal going. So yeah, it's time to take stock and work out where we're going in the future. But definitely it is forward, and I think we're probably at a stage where we do want to diversify, or I would love to be able to empower my staff a wee bit more. And it's like I say, there's quite a few that have been there quite a long time that could be involved more in the business. So yeah, we're just trying to get our heads around the future again, I think, at the moment, after having been everything thrown up in the air. But more limitless again.
Absolutely. I love that. Limitless. Yes, absolutely. Onwards and upwards. There are no limits.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, go for it. So, as you know, I launched the podcast because there are twice as many male entrepreneurs as there are female entrepreneurs. And men are 5 times more likely to scale their business up to over 1 million than women are. So what would be your message to women in business who are, what can we do to improve those numbers?
Again, it's when they're scaling up to over 1 million, is that turnover? Is that
yes.
Is it profit though as well? Turnover is vanity and profit is sanity. So yeah, I think that's the one thing that's sort of stopping me, or not stopping me, or that's what I haven't actually got my figures in line with, is scaling up. But what is that going to actually mean? Is that going to mean just a bigger business, or is that going to mean that there's it's a better business for me and my family? Because yes, again, I know other people that have had small businesses and they have been bigger in the past, but actually they were just chasing their tail more. And you don't necessarily have to be the biggest you possibly can be to be the best you can be.
I love that. Bigger doesn't mean better. Yeah.
And I suppose it is. It's kind of, well, I have to decide really what is my passion? Is it going to be, because I would have to give away more of the, I really couldn't justify then picking up a Hoover or do I scale up and then I can have a quieter role doing a part-time role in nearer my retirement, which is maybe one thing I quite fancy actually. Scaling it up so that it is actually sort of self-sufficient, freeing up some more ideas and drive, which, let's say again, maybe I don't have, and maybe don't hold it back by yourself.
I love that answer. It's do what you want to do. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yes,
We don't have to be comparing ourselves to what men are doing or what other people are doing. Do what's right for you, for your circumstances, your family, and your business.
Yeah, totally. And I think because we're both involved in the business, that's clearer than ever. That it is very much our life. And what we want to be doing with our time and how we want to spend our time and how much free time we get and when we get it, and et cetera, et cetera.
Money is not the only measure of success, is it?
Oh, absolutely not.
So, I like that. I'm going to write that down. A famous author said to me once, or I was listening to an interview that he did once, and he says that he's learned to ask this question at the end, just in case he's forgot anything. Is there anything I should have asked you, Sarah, that I haven't asked? Anything you would like to add?
I suppose the biggest question is, would I have started this up on my own if I didn't have the opportunity to do it? And I could see, having worked in the industry for, maybe it was, I don't know, was it how long it was? As long as she did as an employee, and then seeing struggle that she went through to then make that, it not struggle, but just her most, how she reached the decision to go on her own, and what it took for her to then think, right, no, I'm doing it on my own. A bit of push, a bit of pull. I certainly, I wouldn't have gone into leasing off my own back. I would definitely have had to know the industry. I'd like to think I would. But yeah, that's probably the biggest question for me as for my own confidence and my own self-belief, I think, as well. And I'll never know.
No. And I've got another question then on the back of that. So Margaret Duffus's property business was there, and it's always been there for you, and it's been an option for you. What about Jimmy then? Would he have always wanted to be a director of a business, or is that something that just came with you?
Kind of. He definitely liked having that freedom of choice, in the sense, sort of. He doesn't get that much freedom or choice. But yeah, he does like having that being in control, I suppose, or ultimately in control. You've only got yourself to blame if you're doing too much, or you're doing the wrong thing, or and you can ultimately change it. I suppose that's true of anyone though as well. Employees have a choice too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is. Let's say how I managed to find him and get him on board, both back up, because he's not from Aberdeen, up to Aberdeen and into the business. It's just worked out very well for us and for both of us.
Yes. Mm-hmm. No, it's fantastic. It's great to see your business going from strength to strength, and coming through some tough times and out the other side, and it does. It gives you a lot of confidence to know you can get through. It's all, like, again, success when the going's good is one thing, but to get through the bad times or the harder times is definitely more satisfying. Or you grow a lot more, you benefit a lot more, I think, from it. I think that's all I've got to ask, Sarah. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Scale Her Up podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Well, no, thank you very much. I've enjoyed it as well.
Thanks for listening to Scale Her Up, the Female Entrepreneurs Show. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and please join our Facebook community at Scale Her Up. Please connect with me, Brenda Hector, on social media and drop me a message to let me know you're enjoying the podcasts, or even better, pop a wee review on iTunes. I'm going to finish by reminding you, only 1 in 3 UK entrepreneurs are female, and men are 5 times more likely to scale their business to over 1 million in turnover than women. If we started and scaled our businesses to the same extent as men, it would add 250 billion to the UK economy and provide millions of jobs. Ladies, you can do it, and we're going to make a massive difference.